Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele. So I thought what we'd do today, and as promised, now I don't have anybody with me, because of scheduling and of course the big events that's happened over the last 48 hours. So we're just going to do it on today. I'm just going to do it by myself. So there is going to be no usual show today. So that's not to say there's no show. We are just going to be doing something a little bit different. So I promised everybody and I told everybody we would do this. And of course, I am talking about the Blockbuster summer Blockbuster preview show. And there is a lot of stuff to get to. This is one of the most packed um, summers that I can remember in years. Probably, last time there's a chance to make so much money here from so many different films, and yeah, it's just this is one of the biggest summers of all time, and or it's going to be, regardless. And the people who win here are us, the fans, because we're getting so much stuff, and I can't wait to bring this to you guys. So here's what we're going to do for the so let me say a couple things like disclaimers. Okay, first disclaimer is this, um, and they're not bad, of course. I don't think a lot of these movies are going to make as much money as everybody thinks, and I've been guilty about this. Okay, we have, just in this picture here, we have 8 films. Okay, we are going to be covering 9 films on today's show. Some of them there, most of them are there. One of them is not. That being said, they're all going to make a lot of money, a lot of money, and so I think opening weekend, they're probably not going to make as much money as they could if they were kind of spread out more. So that is the one disclaimer. So um, let's just jump right in. So the first film that is actually previewing tomorrow, and some people across the country have seen it, and you know, it's been incredible reception. I have a little article here for it. It's Guardians of the Galaxy 3. This is so before I get into the article, a couple of things. Number one, going back to 2012, okay, um, there was a movie out that was the end of phase one, and that was the Avengers. And the Avengers was the film that really started it all. And you say, well, it's Iron Man or Thor. You're right. But the culmination films, okay? And to show what kind of business it did. Now, mind you, this was 11 years ago. To show you what kind of business this did, it was the first film ever to make $200 million opening weekend. The Avengers I'm talking about. And $100 million in second. From the success of that, we've had a number of different individualized franchises. Okay, we've had Thor, we've had the Captain America franchise, we've had, and this is one of the greatest films out there. Okay, everybody has their top 5 MCU films. Okay, we all know that. The thing is that this came out in 2014 originally, the very first one, and James Gunn really redefined the MCU. And when you think about what characters were in the MCU, superhero characters, if you will, it was the first time we had a mashup, uh, out of space franchise like this. I mean, we had the Avengers, of course, but this was beautifully written. It had comedic elements to it. The soundtrack is second to none, and it's emotional. And it touched on all of the different things that you want in a film, in a superhero film. And for me, it's right up there. It's one of the top 5 MCU films for me. And so, Volume 2 was good. Okay, wasn't great, and all the speculation and all the everything out there is talking about this film The finale is incredible, and I can't wait to see this. And I can't wait to bring this to you guys. Once you guys go see this yourself. And by the way, all these films that I'm going to be talking about and referring to and everything else, I'm going to be doing the spoiler cast for all these films. Okay, so I'm gonna have a busy summer. So, anyways, I want to jump right into this. So a couple of things. Number one, this is, of course, directed by James Gunn. The budget is rumored to have been right around 150, 180 million dollars, um, maybe upwards of 200, since the other ones were around that. This is, it's going to be a fantastic ride. So this is the box office preview by the THR. So now that he's the guardian of DC's studios, James Gunn is bidding farewell to his work from rival Marvel with the release of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in theaters across the globe this weekend. Guardians 3 continues a long tradition of Marvel movies kicking off the summer season at the box office, and I'm going to get into that in a couple of minutes. It also unfurled on the heels of CinemaCon, the annual gathering of theater owners and Hollywood studios in Las Vegas. This year's show is decidedly upbeat, despite the threat of a writer's strike, which is going on right now. And the good mood was due in large part of the stunning success of Universal and Illumination's Super Mario Bros., which has joined the $1 billion club. Most recent tracking for the numbers for Guardian shows it in the $120 million range domestically, which is notably less than the $146 million for Guardians Volume 2, but ahead of the $92 million of the first Guardians in 2014. Now, that's not adjusted for inflation. It's unusual for a title in the MCU to open behind the previous installment in a respective series, but not unheard of. Those that have include the sequel Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which was released on the pandemic, still raged on, and of course, Avengers: Age of Ultron. Insiders at Marvel and parent company Disney are keen on Guardians 3 and believe that it will benefit from good word of mouth. As of now, however, the film currently sports the lowest rate on the Rotten Tomatoes critic score of Gunn's 3 movies. It's also the longest, clocking in at 2 hours and 30 minutes. Box office analysts say they wouldn't be surprised if Guardians 3 comes in higher, and that tracking has been complicated by the massive success of Mario, whose voice cast is led by Guardians star Chris Pratt, who has found time to promote both movies. Marvel could use a hit after the disappointing box office of Ant-Man and the Quantumania and the Wasp, which opened ahead of the 2 previous Ant-Man installments, but topped out at a low $476 million worldwide. In terms of the Guardian franchise, the 2014 earned $333.7 million domestic and $439 million for a global take-home of $773.3 million. That's unadjusted. Guardians Volume 2 took in $863 million worldwide, including $389 million domestic and the other $473 coming overseas. China turned in a sizable $86.3 million for the first film's total gross and $100 million for the 2017 sequel. But in the pandemic era, Hollywood has seen many of its films turned away by the Chinese government authorities, and Marvel titles in particular. While Guardians 3 is the opening date in China this weekend, it will go up against a high-profile Chinese title. Marvel's insiders praised Gunn for making a proper send-off that tingled both emotion and humor. Guardians 3 reunites the cast writer with Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Karen Gillan, Sean Gunn, Bradley Cooper, and Vin Diesel, who's going to be in another film a little later on. Newcomers include Chadwick, as the villain, as a high evolutionary, and Will Poulter, who will play the classic Marvel character Adam Warlock. This new Guardians of the Galaxy movie focuses on Rocket Raccoon, the character voiced by Cooper and Sean Gunn, set on motion capture. Okay, let's talk about this. So, I think that this movie is going to do incredible. Okay, and um, when we talk about predicting box office, and look, I'm no predictor of any. I can't do. I can only speculate. Just like there are experts out there that do this for a living. Um, I think there are a couple of things going in James Gunn's favor right now. Number one, this is his final film in Marvel, and anytime you have a final film, um, whether it's especially in a franchise, whether it's a Star Wars or a Harry Potter or whatever, it's always going to do more. Okay. Number two, this is Guardians of the Galaxy, and everybody has come to know and love Guardians of the Galaxy for its family-oriented, zany antics. Okay. Number three, it always brings emotion, and that's so vitally important because I have to be able to care about these characters, and so um, it's really it it's going to do so. The other thing about box office is this: we can predict, and I say we, I mean there was people that do it. We can predict this can make 150, 160 million dollars, but nobody really knows. Okay, all you got to do is go back to think about Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home, when it was supposed to, when it was up to um, predictions, it was 160, 170 million. And then you had it was going up and up and up. And then they said around 200. And then it clocked in at $257 million opening weekend. And it's like, whoa. And it is one of the top 5 all-time grossing films um, opening weekend. So, and that just goes to show you. So I think, and there's one other thing that needs to be brought up too. There are 3 films that we're going to cover, and this is the first one. 3 films we're going to cover that are going to probably win 2 weeks. This is the first one. Okay, it's going to win the 5th in that weekend, and then it's going to win the 12th. Okay, and then the next film we're going to talk about is probably going to win that next weekend. So that's going to benefit for having more and more and more exposure, and the ratings have been good and everything else. I think this has a lot of real potential. Now, could this hit $1 billion? Maybe. I mean, it has to do what the 2014 film did. And James Gunn, in one of the stories I did about a month ago, okay, it was he was sitting down with an Empire, and he talked about how the first Guardians was about the mother, okay. The second Guardians was about the father. This Guardians is about themselves coming together, and so I think this is going to be fabulous. I can't wait for it. And so the other thing too is the last 4 or 5 Marvel films have opened, okay, averaged around 155 to 156 million dollars. Okay, I'm talking about last year at this time we had Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness that opened to 187 million. Okay, you had Thor: Love and Thunder. Okay, you had Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was the most recent one that opened at around 108. Okay, and you had Black Panther: Wakanda Forever that did right around 120. So this is right in that average range. They always are front loaded, and then the second weekend they will do significantly. Depending on the drop off. I mean, you look at Ant-Man and the Wasp, right? That dropped off 70%. That fell off a cliff. That all being said, I don't think this is going to do that. So I really feel like this is going to be a good, solid film, and they need it. Marvel really needs a win right now. Not to say the other ones were bad, but they were average. And when you're used to great and then you get average, you're let down. So I think that this is going to be a fantastic movie. I think that this is going to do really well. And this is going to perform overseas too. And that's the other thing too. They have nothing to worry about because if this is a hit here in the United States domestically, which I'm sure it's going to be, this is going to make serious bank over there. Now, could it hit $1 billion? I don't think it will. I think that it will probably 700, $800 million, which is still incredible. Okay. So let's put it this way. It will definitely turn a profit. What do you guys think about this? Are you excited for Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Who is your favorite character in Guardians of the Galaxy? How many times, if it's good, how many times are you going to go see it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we move now from kind of like an action sci-fi-ish film, okay, to just a pure action film and a fun film if you want summer and craziness. And I'm talking about Fast X. Fast X is just crazy. And so there's nothing you can say about this film that either hasn't been said or hasn't been done. Okay. The story has gotten so outrageous that they're bringing characters back from the dead. They are doing the CGI, everything about this. Now, me being I've got a hard time. I'm willing to suspend disbelief a little bit, but I checked out of this franchise. I'll be honest. I checked out of this franchise about 3 or 4 films ago. I'm not going to lie. Because the major thing for me was this, okay? It was a copy and paste franchise. And I think that when you have a copy and paste franchise, that it really there's no plot. There's no, we're just in it. They're just going to get the biggest names and the biggest stars, and they're just going to go about doing this. And I look, I like fun. I'm willing to say, have fun all day long. It's just how much. I guess the question is this: how much disbelief can you suspend, right? Because it's one of those things where if you're able to do it, then great. And so I'll give you a little background. It's 141 minutes TRT, total running time. And so it has a budget of $340 million. Now, I want to put something in perspective real quick. In order for a film to really kind of break even, okay, it has to make 2 to 3 times its budget. Okay. So in order for this film to break even, now I'm not saying, look, the franchise is a $1 billion franchise. Okay. In order for this film to break even, okay, you're talking about this having to make over $1.1 billion to break even. Will it? Yeah, probably will. I'm shocking to say this will, because if it doesn't make this here, it will definitely make it overseas. And all of that being said, I'm going to go see this. I have not seen any of the last 3. I checked out at Fast 5. And I think that, actually, because here's my biggest problem with this film is this. As I said, it's copy and paste. So, for example, you take somebody like a Jason Statham, okay, who was a villain in one movie. so he joins the crew in the next movie. Okay, then you have, Charlize Theron, who is, a great actress. Okay, copy and paste. They just take her and they put her, and now she's on the crew. Okay, and you're bringing back people like Tyrese and Ludacris and Jordana Brewster, which is fine. I mean, they've been staples since the very get-go of this franchise. Um, and you're adding names like a Brie Larson, who right now is, you know, the hottest thing out there right now. She's got the Marvels coming out in November. She's done a lot of other projects. Any MCU attached person is going to get recognition for being in this. Um, and it's one of those things where I think that it's going to be a fascinating thing to see what happens. Now, all of that being said, this is going to do serious. This is going to overthrow Guardians, okay? And not only is it only going to overthrow Guardians, it's going to make a lot of money. And this is another film that it's just going to do a lot of money. I predicted back in the day, when I say back in the day, a couple months ago, when we were starting to open up and really talk about this, I said it was going to make really right around $700 million. I mean, I think this is going to be good, but is it going to be great? I think people are tired of the copy and paste aspect, but they do like the literally, no pun intended, the ludicrous factor of it. I think that's going to be big. And then you have Vin Diesel, who's always been a draw on this, right? You've got Helen Mirren, who's being in this. A lot of this is CGI, and that's why the cost is going up. You have Jason Momoa, who is, a big name. DC, he was in, played Aquaman. So I think he'll do good. I mean, not my cup of tea. And it's not that I'm not a street racing kind of guy, but it's gotten so out there. I like to have some sort of reality check and whatnot. What do you guys think about Fast 10? Do you guys think that this is going to make a lot of money? Or do you guys think this is going to bust? Are you going to go see Fast 10? Who's your favorite character in Fast 10? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so let's move on to the next movie. And so now it's going to start to come literally fast and furious. Pun intended there, guys. But it's going to come at a really fast clip right now. And so we go from action, okay, to animation. And I mean, we just saw another animated movie cross over $1 billion. Now, will this do $1 billion? Definitely not. But it's going to be a good time. And that's Across the Spider-Verse. So this is one of those films that it's going to do a ridiculous amount of money for a couple of reasons. Number one, it is animated. Okay, so that's going to pull all of the younger crowd in. Number two, this is a sequel, and sequels, while they have a hard time of trying to do well, I think that the animation, and by the way, guys, this won an Oscar. So, I mean, that there is nothing to be said about this either, because of those things where, as a matter of fact, I just did a story the other day about how Spider-Man is now one of the most popular characters behind the Avengers. So this actually has a budget of $150 million. And this is going to kick off June. So this arrives June 2nd. And I think it's going to do a lot. Now, truth be told, I have to see the first one. So I'm going to sit down, and before I go to see this, I'm going to sit down and watch the first one. And everybody says this is one of the top 3 or 4 Spider-Man movies. So I can't wait for this. We have, this is more a coming of age story, but it's also, you know, the animation's there, and you have another character in Miles Morales, and you have, this is going to be a fun movie. I have no doubt in my mind, and I think that when you're able to incorporate all of the different Spider-Mans, right? Like you have the adult Spider-Man, okay? You have Miles Morales. You've got the 2099 Spider-Man. You've got Spider-Woman, I think it is. You've got all of these. Um, and then he's trying to find himself too, because this is really a coming of age film at the end of the day. And don't forget, guys, they just showed off 17 minutes of footage at Comic Con, and everybody said this was amazing. Some of the best animation they'd ever seen. And as I said before, it won an Oscar. So that's not to be not to be trifled with. Um, and it's going to be amazing, literally and figuratively. Um, I mean, this cast, okay? You have Haley Steinfeld, Oscar Isaac, Brian Tyrese Henry, and just others in here that are Daniel Kaluuya. I mean, this is going to be so much fun. I can't wait to see this. And I have the privilege actually of have not seen the first one. I get to go in cold. And actually, once I see the first one, to actually see the second one. And I think it's going to be a blast. And so there is another one coming out next year. And if this is as good as advertised, which I suspect it's going to be, people are going to be chomping at the bit for this. And don't forget, too, guys, there's something else to be said here. And they didn't coincide with it, of course, but we have a video game coming out. It's a Spider-Man 2 video game, which has been highly anticipated, especially for me. Okay. I mean, the first one won the Game of the Year. Okay. And was some of the best Insomniac games they hit it out of the park. So I'm really curious to see what Spider-Man 2 is going to be. We're probably going to get that right around the fall too. So Spider-Man has been in on everybody's mind for a long time. So I think there's going to be so much fun. And then you're going to see a different side of it too. So this one's going to kick off June, and just buckle in because June's going to be a lot of fun. But what do you guys think about this film? Do you think that this is going to do well? Have you seen the first film? If so, who were some of your favorite characters in it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we move from Spider-Man to another major IP. And this is one that I think, I don't want to say I'm done with, but I checked out a long time ago, but I'm willing to give it another try. And that's Transformers. Transformers is a franchise, and I've said this before, that when it first came out, it was revolutionary. Michael Bay did a hell of a job. Of course, you had Steven Spielberg as an EP, so that helped. But moreover than that, nobody had ever seen anything like it. And then it started to get a little stale. Okay? Now, I have seen some. I've seen Dark Side of the Moon. I don't think I've fully seen Age of Existence or Extinction. And I know I haven't seen The Last Night. So I haven't seen Bumblebee either. Okay. So I'm really curious to see what this is going to do, but I think it's going to do very well. Once again, this is an IP that, we have somebody behind, a new director behind the camera here, in Stephen Capel Jr. And I think that it's going to be fresh. and I think it's going to be big. And you have Academy Award winner Michelle Yeoh in voicing one of the characters, and I think it's going to be a fun movie. Just from the trailer itself, and they revealed the trailer at Comic Con, it looks like a blast. It looks like a lot of fun. I'm not too familiar with. Now, I used to have, as a kid, I used to have all the Transformers. Okay. Um, I mean, all, the major Decepticons, Autobots, whatever. Um, I don't really know the story of Optimus Primal in their um, in their particular set of Autobots. So that's going to be a fascinating thing to see. I mean, I'm sure we're going to get an origin story on it. And yeah, so we have Anthony Ramos coming back, okay, who is in one of these, I think. You have Dominique Fishback. That's going to be fun. Um, I think they're going to have, I think they had a good time doing it. Michelle Yeoh, like I said, Peter Dinklage is in this. You know, Peter Cullen, who is, by the way, it's fascinating. Peter Cullen, and this is the one good thing I think about this franchise. So, anybody who doesn't know, Peter Cullen was the voice of Optimus Prime in the 80s, okay, for the cartoon. He did the 80s television cartoon, but he also did the movie. He has voiced Optimus Prime in every single movie. And I think that's so cool that they were able to bring somebody back and be nostalgic, because even if this movie is bad, which it may or may not be, we'll have to wait and see on that. That I think that he's going to be the one highlight, right? He's going to be the one highlight that people say, "Oh yeah, that was Peter Cullen," And so I think that that's going to be a major factor, and I hope he continues to do the voice, because look, it needs something, whether it's nostalgia, whether it's more, action. I mean, every Optimus Prime arguably is one of the top 2 or 3, next to Bumblebee, top 2 or 3 most popular um, Autobots or Transformers in particular. I mean, you look at any poster. I mean, even take a look at this picture here. He's front and center. Like, he is the leader of the Autobots. So I think that that's going to be an interesting thing. And I'll be honest, I'm willing to give this another shot. I'm willing to give this another shot to see if it's good. Um, and as far as money is concerned, it's going to do what it's going to do. All these movies, you got to understand, guys, all these movies are going to make a lot of money regardless. Okay. And if one film falters, that means that that week, that other film is just going to make more money, because it's going to get bad word of mouth or bad press, and it's just not going to do well. So, money aside, I'm excited for this movie, and I think that it's going to be a good, fun, action-packed time at the theater. Anyways, guys, what do you think? What do you think about Transformers: Rise of the Beast? Have you seen all of the other Transformers before? If so, which of the movies was your favorite? Who is your favorite Transformer? Who is your favorite Autobot? Who is your favorite Decepticon? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we're moving right along here. I think that it's one of those things that now we're going to really start. This is probably so coming up. Okay, we're now going to be talking about arguably the most divisive, um, film of the summer. And this film has been on ice for 2 years. And regardless, and the expectation for this film, when people talk about their most the expectations or the most anticipated films of the year, or the summer, and they say, well, which ones are you, really interested in? Um, this one is always in the number one, always. And I'm talking about The Flash. This film, that I got a lot to say, or some stuff to say about this. So, number one, this is going to be a very interesting film. Now, you've had a lot of publicity about this film, okay? A lot. And because of the star, Ezra Miller, and what they have done. Now, if you don't go to see this film, that's your choice, okay? That being said, I think that the big thing is this, okay? On the surface, because you got to remember, during the pandemic, this was really done during the pandemic, and this was supposed to be released last year, and it wasn't. I think that on the surface, it looks good. Okay. I think, you know, um, I'll be honest, I'm not that big of a DC fan. I think that, or, know that much about The Flash. I haven't watched the television series, all that. That being said, I do know that this is supposed to be done from Flashpoint. Okay. I think that this is going to be, DC is trying to capture some of that nostalgia, right? And of course, bringing back Michael Keaton and everything else. And I think that's something that they're hoping that really propels this film. This movie's going to make money. Don't get me wrong. This movie's going to make a lot of money. Even if it doesn't do it over here in the United States, it's going to make it overseas. I don't know. They have James Gunn, after, of course, he's done with the press for Guardians 3, he's going to be focusing on the DCU. There's a lot of questions to be asked here. Okay. Number one, if this movie is successful, and you say, well, what's successful? If this makes a lot of money, if this turns a profit, okay. If this is successful, what do you do with Ezra Miller? Okay. Because don't forget, okay, he is part of that whole Snyder verse. And for the most part, it's all been disbanded, whether it's Ben Affleck or whether it's, Gal Gadot, even though there's a possibility she might be in other films, okay, as different roles. Jason Momoa, whatever, okay. Henry Cavill, that was a whole disaster in itself. What do you do with Ezra Miller? Because if this film is a profitable venture for them, do you keep him or do you recast him? That's door number one. Option, that's the first thing. Issue number one. Issue number two, okay, we have a brand new Supergirl, okay, in Sasha Calle, okay. Now, do you keep her if she's good, or do you put somebody else in? That's another thing, okay. So that's the second thing. Number three, what do you do about Batman? Because Batman, okay, this iteration of Batman, okay, Michael Keaton, and we see Ben Affleck, okay. I'm sure they're going to want a handsome fortune to be in any sort of films moving forward, okay. Now they say that, when I say they, I mean DC and Warner Brothers has also said this is supposed to be like a reset, okay. And if that's the case, then, but how far do you go with this Batman? How far do you go with, everything else? It's going to be, is there going to be a post-credit scene? Because we've heard a lot of different things where, there was a post-credit scene with this person or that person and it didn't work. So what do you do? Regardless, I mean, I will say one thing, and Tom Cruise has come out and said, "Oh, this is one of the the Flash was really good," and some people have even said, "Oh, this is the greatest comic book movie of all time." I'm not going to go that far. The trailer looks good. Okay, the action looks good. It has some comedic elements to it. Do I think this is going to be the greatest superhero movie of all time? No. I think the hype is just, but I think once the hype is done, so this, going back to what I was saying before at the top of the show, this is the second of the two films that is going to win 2 weeks. Okay. The first one was Guardians of the Galaxy, and this is going to be the second one. This is going to win the 16th, and it's going to win the 23rd. Okay. Now, I can't see this not doing that, and I can't see it not making a lot of money in those 2 weeks, depending on what the opening weekend is going to do. Okay. Let's say it makes $150 million. And by the way, I have no inside knowledge of that. Okay. How much is it going to make it second weekend? Because the thing is, if it's very good, people are going to go back to it. Okay. If it's not, if it's subpar or average at best, they may go to one of the other films. Because don't forget, okay, you are going to have other films out there. Okay. You're going to have, Across the Spider-Verse opens the second, which we talked about, which have Transformers, which is, the film that earlier in the week. Don't forget, you're still going to have Guardians in the theater, okay? And you're still going to have Fast 10. So this is going to be like the fifth film that's come out in 7 or 8 weeks. I do think it's going to make a lot of money. I do think that it's going to win 2 weekends. And we'll see. So, I mean, like I said, I'm not a DC fan. I have faith in James Gunn, but we have to see what he's going to do moving forward. And all that being said, what do you do? There's a lot of questions to be asked. A lot of questions to be asked. Because do you bring Ezra Miller back? Do you bring Sasha Calle back? Do you bring Michael Keaton back? I mean, he's got a lot of, and look, I'm sure he's doing all of this right now. He'll do it after this, but I'm curious to see what the projections are for this. I really am, because, and look, every single one of these movies, I want to do well. Let me get that clear right now. I want them to all do very, very well. The budget of this movie is $200 million. Okay, now I think that can make it back in lickety split, it could make its whole budget back in 2 weeks. Okay, and everything else is gravy. So we'll see. I'm definitely going to be covering it. Definitely going to be seeing it, and it will be interesting too for me because I really know nothing about. I know of the Flash. I know of Ezra Miller's Flash from Justice League and everything else, but I don't know any of the backstory. I don't know about Flashpoint at all. So this is going to be fascinating for me to actually go into these films cold. That's like Fast 10. I have not seen any of the Fast and Furious movies since Fast 5. So to go into this completely cold is going to be, now I've seen the trailers. Okay. But I have not seen, I don't know any of the backstory. So it's going to be a fascinating watch. Anyways, guys, what do you think about The Flash? Are you excited for The Flash? What do how much do you think it might make opening weekend? Do you think they'll keep the actress that plays Supergirl? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we go from a superhero film to another action film, and this is going to come out not the 23rd, but the 30th. And this is a film that I think everybody is looking forward to. Another big budget monstrosity of a film. When I say monstrosity, I mean because of the budget. and that's Indiana Jones. Um, I'm laughing because I remember 1981. I was 6 or 7 years old, close to that, when Raiders came out. Now, obviously, I didn't have the same appreciation for films as I do today. This Hans, I almost called him Han Solo. Harrison Ford has owned. Okay, he had people don't realize this. He had a 15-year stretch where he was the man, the man in Hollywood. Okay, whether we want to go to Raiders of the Lost Ark, of course, he gets, Indiana Jones like this. Okay, Blade Runner. He was in a little movie way back in 1977 called Star Wars. So he is actually playing Han Solo. So Kevin here says, Dial of Destiny, Domestic 5. Yeah, I think you're about right on that, and I think it's going to do really, really big numbers. And this is one of the films that's going to is hotly anticipated. So you have to remember. So back in 81, so he does a little movie in 1980 called Empire Strikes Back. So he's Han Solo. 81, he does Raiders of the Lost Ark. So he's now Indiana Jones. He does Blade Runner. Okay. Of course, he reprises his role in 1983 in Return of the Jedi. And by the way, guys, I'll put the link up there at the top of the page. I just did a 40th anniversary about Return of the Jedi, which I think you guys are going to thoroughly enjoy. Go check that out. Okay. During the mid 80s, he's, still doing, he does Temple of Doom in 84. Okay. Then, okay, we go and we fast forward to 80, 88, 89, where he does Last Crusade. Okay. Then, then you think about the 90s. Okay. He does a little film in the mid to early 90s, okay, called Air Force One, where he plays the President of the United States. Get Off My Plane with Gary Oldman. Okay. Then you have, all of these, then he does dramatic films like Witness back in 1988. Regarding Henry, this man has been around the block. Okay. He has never lost his luster. But this is one of the top one or two most iconic individual characters in franchise history. Not only franchise history, but all in cinema. So this is the trailer when it got released. I liked it. Now I got to be honest. I hate the subtitle. Okay, or the thing. Dial of Destiny for me just doesn't do it. Now that it sounds catchy, I get it, but it's just not for me. All of that being said, okay, it's because you got to remember there was another bust of a film, okay, back in the 90s, okay, called Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and it was a bust. Okay, that was the one with Shia LaBeouf. I never saw it. That to me is like the one that just doesn't exist. Okay, this one I'm fascinated. So he's already come out and said this will be his last film. This has a $294.7 million budget. Now, there are some good things to be had here. Number one, you do have James Mangold at the helm. So you're getting fresh-blooded. Of course, James Mangold did the remarkable Logan. Okay. He's done things like Ford v. Ferrari and other great films. Number two, he is coming back and doing. He also did Walk the Line way back when. So he has done other films. That being said, this budget was ballooned a lot because this is, at the end of the day, Okay, and I have no knowledge about this, but if you watch the trailers, you'll kind of figure it out. It's a time travel movie. Okay, that is not what Harrison Ford looks like. Okay, he's 82 years old. Um, he does not look like that. He's more of the uh, he's more. This is a little more, CGI. But what they did was this. So the de aging process was used in this film a lot. There were other shots from the trailer and stills. If you go to look at it, that he doesn't look this young. Okay, he doesn't look this young. And so this is essentially a time travel movie. Now that is Phoebe Waller um, Bridges, and so from what we gather, she is playing Marion's niece, and Marion is the first love that he had back in Raise the Lost Ark. So that is his niece. Okay, Helena Shaw. So it is good though because you are also going to be having one of the greatest actors of the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years, and Mads Mikkelsen in this. Um, of course, for me, you know, being in Casino Royale, I thought he was incredible. But of course, he's done Hannibal. He's done so many other great films and television, for that matter. That you know, he was a villain in Doctor Strange. So I think that all being said, I think this has the potential to do a lot of money and a lot of fun. And so Kevin says here, Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse will make its money. My concern is the Little Mermaid going to overshadow its domestic box office. The thing about the Little Mermaid is this, Kevin, that I think it looks good. That you know, So Disney, let me come back to that because I actually do want to answer that question. I do have some thoughts on that. Give me 1 minute just to finish this real quick. Um, that being said, this is going to make a lot of money, and I'll buckle in for a good ride because I think this has a chance to do quite well. Um, anyways, guys, what do you guys think about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? Are you excited for this movie? Are you interested in this movie at all? Which Indiana Jones films are your favorite? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so I want to come back to Kevin's comment real quick. And he said, "In Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse will make more money. My concern is that The Little Mermaid is going to overshadow its domestic box office debut." And here's what I'll say to that is that Disney has been on a streak in the last 5 to 7 years of live action films that some of them have been very good and some of them have been very bad. Okay. Now, that being said, The Lion King made $1.1 billion. Okay. Aladdin, really, really good take home. It depends on what it is. Okay. The Little Mermaid is going to have its core audience. Okay. So I don't think that that's going to get too much into it. Now, Spider-Verse, okay, to your point, it is a sequel. It is animated, so kids are going to go see that too. It's all going to depend on the reception. Because don't forget, June, in that same week, I didn't touch upon this for The Flash, but in that same week, okay, there was another movie coming out by Pixar, and it's called Elemental. And there has been a trailer for it, and they just showed about 15 minutes of that at CinemaCon, and that looks really good. Really good. I'm really curious to see how that will do. But at the end of the day, I think The Little Mermaid's going to be fine. And remember this also. If it doesn't make the money here in the States, it's always going to make the money overseas. Okay? It's always going to make that money overseas. So I wouldn't worry too much about it because I think that it's got it has the audience. it has that audience, and it's really going to do quite a bit of money. Okay, so I'm just pulling up because I want everybody to. So now we are done with June. Okay, now we're almost in the home stretch. Okay, and we have another film that I've been raving about for, oh, I don't know, a long, long, long time. And I'm going to just pull this up for you guys because I want to get the slide up, so bear with me for just a minute. But this is the film I think that at the end of the day, um, it's going to, I think this is the one that's going to take over $1 billion. Not to say that they all aren't. I'm just saying that this is um, this is just an amazing movie, and we need to take um, we need to take. I guess we really need. I'm just going to bring the film up, so I don't want to do this right now, but I'm talking about Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One, and um, there are not enough superlatives in any book to um, talk about exactly what this franchise has meant to not only cinema, but just in general. Um, I think that when you have a franchise like this, and this is the one I wanted, I can't wait for this movie. I think this is going to be $1 billion with its eyes closed for a number of different reasons. Okay. Number one, this is so this I have to be absolutely honest. This is my number one most anticipated um, movie of the year. Not only of the year, but um, of the summer. And that being said, I think that Tom Cruise, for the past 25 years plus, has just made this an event, right? So, and I am going back and I'm doing a Mission Impossible rewatch series. So anybody, I've already put the first one up. So guys, stay tuned. I will be recording the second one. I've already watched the film. Um, I will be recording the second one very shortly in the coming days. That all being said, Tom Cruise doesn't cut any corners. Okay, he has so much goodwill with Hollywood. Okay, that being said, you take a look at. I mean, he struck a nerve. He knew what to do with Top Gun Maverick, which made $1.49 billion. It's one of the top 10 highest grossing domestic films of all time. Because it's all practical. And because you did it practical, people appreciate that. And then when you talk about spectacle, and this man has done everything from hang off the side of planes to, climb the tallest buildings in the world to everything. And he's an adrenaline junkie. And that's just who Tom Cruise is. Now, you couple that with the story that he's put together. Okay. This will be, I think, his fourth film he's done with Christopher McQuarrie. Okay. So um, this is the last installment of the film. Now, mind you, this is part one. Okay. Part 2 will be coming out next year, right around the same time. There's not. I mean, there's so many different facts. For example, Tom Cruise and Vin Rames are the only two franchise people to be in every single movie. Okay, Simon Pegg starred. I think he started in Ghost Protocol, but he's been now a staple. If you go back and you watch the I always refer people to this. Okay, go back and watch the 9-minute. I'll try and put the link in the description. Go back and watch the 9-minute behind the scenes footage and what he did for that one shot. It's remarkable. That all being said, so it's interesting because in what I said about when they were going to debut this footage, I hate to gloat, but I was right. Okay, because you hadn't heard a peep. Okay, the thing is that at that time, okay, you had the Super Bowl back in February. They didn't debut any footage. They didn't debut a trailer. Now it was $5 to $6 million. Okay, fine. That's nothing for Paramount. Okay, because they had the eyes. They didn't do it. Now I understood that because they had the Flash, they had Guardians, they had Transformers, they had a lot of other different films to go up against. Okay, then you move to March, you move to March. Okay, then they had the Oscars. And the Oscars, you would think, okay, this is the place. This is the biggest, brightest. The lights are on at all times. This is the biggest time to do it. And they didn't do it. And you go, what? Why wouldn't you have put it in the Oscars? And I said, here's what they're going to do, guys. They are going to try and they're going to wait, okay, until CinemaCon. And they're either going to show a lot of it or they are going to show the whole thing. And what ended up happening the night that Paramount had its presentation, which, by the way, guys, you can go back and watch that Mission Impossible rewatch. I'll put the link right up there in the top corner for you guys. That's the very first one. I'll be going through all of the franchise as we get closer and closer to I believe it's the 14th of July. The 12th, excuse me. As a matter of fact, it was the 14th, and then they moved it up to the 12th. So now it's coming out on the Wednesday. Okay, so my point is this. So they ended up showing 20 minutes worth of footage and a brand new trailer that has not been released to the public. Because, see, Cruise realized something. If you hold on to something and hold on to something and hold on to something, what does it do? It creates demand. People are dying and itching to see this kind of thing. What do they have up their sleeve next? Because it's one of those things where you say, what are they going to do next? How are they going to do it? So, yeah. So they realize that. This is a poster, and I did a story on this a couple months ago, the night after the Oscars debuted, and nobody talked about it. And the reason being, because they were talking about the Oscars. Here is the poster. Now, this is the jump that I was referring to with the 9 minutes from Paramount. Okay? That's an incredible poster. Actually, so I follow somebody on Twitter who's from the rap. I've read his stories here on the show before. Jeremy Fauser actually messaged me and said, hey, Dave, because we were hosting a space right the day after. It was the night of the Oscars after the ceremony. And I said, I'm surprised they didn't do it. And so he agreed with me. And the next day, I'm looking at my Twitter DMs and I see this. Paramount dropped a brand new picture or a poster for the film. And so somebody had tweeted me, oh, I guess Tom must have listened to you, right? But that's it. That's the last piece of footage or promotional material we have for this film. That's it. The only other thing is that 9 minutes behind the scenes that, that is there. So it's going to be fascinating to see if and when they drop this Mission Impossible, this new, brand new, that spanking new Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 trailer, if it's attached to any film. I think, if I'm going to be honest here, I think what Paramount is going to do is they are going to attach it to Fast 10, because it will be a month before the trailer. So what that will do is, it will be exclusive to Fast 10. Okay. Number one, it's an action movie. Number two, it's a male driven film. Okay. It's an action film. Okay. Number three, it's the same demographic. Not demographic, but it's the same age range. It's that 18 to 34 or even 18 to 49 crowd. Okay. So I think they're going to drop the trailer with that. Now, I could be totally wrong. That being said, it only makes sense because they don't have any other, there are no other big debuts that they are, there's no other big events that they're going to have. So how are they going to do it, and when are they going to do it? The key is going to be not drop. I mean, hell, for all I know, and I have no inside knowledge about this, they could attach it to Guardians, and that would be huge. You know. That being said, this is going to do huge. This is going to be one of the fastest films, I think, to cross $1 billion. I think a lot of these films I've talked about up to this point are going to get very, very close to $1 billion. Like Guardian's going to make right around 800. You know, I mean, Indiana Jones could get right around that 700 to 800 million range. I think without a doubt, because of all of the things I just talked about, I think this is going to be $1 billion film for Tom Cruise, because they realize that this is going to be his last hurrah, if you will, as Ethan Hunt. And, you know, I mean, the last thing I'll say is this. We as film fans, okay, and film aficionados and critics and everything else, do not appreciate Tom Cruise for who he is. This man has brought us prime time cinema and movies for the past 45 years. Okay? Going all the way back to 1980, okay, with Taps. Even though that wasn't his big, breakout. Of course, you had 83 with Risky Business. And then, of course, in 1986, that's when he became that superstardom, Tom Cruise, in Top Gun. I will say this. There is a little movie out there that was also done in 1986. That was done by Martin Scorsese, called The Color of Money. I love The Color of Money. Okay? It's Tom Cruise, it's Paul Newman, and it's about Cruise being essentially a pool hustler. And so Newman, of course, is supposed to be, plays the same character that was in The Hustler with Jackie Gleason all those years ago, just, many years later. But this is, I can't even begin to describe my excitement for this film. That's hands down, without a doubt, this is my number one most anticipated movie of the summer. And I think it's going to do $1 billion really, really fast. Anyways, guys, what do you think about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1? Are you excited for this film? Which of the Mission Impossibles do you like the most? Who's your favorite character in all of the Mission Impossible films? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so now we are in the home stretch, and this is where it's going to get very, very interesting. So that all being said, okay, there are 2 movies left that are, it's going, so they're coming out the same day. And I think that it's going to be um, fascinating. And let me just bring up the last slide here for you guys. And we are done. Okay, so here's the thing. We have 2 movies coming out the week after it. Okay, and I'm going to start with the one that I think is. I'll just start with this one here. So, and that's Barbie. Now, I got to be honest. Okay, I have really wondered about this film. So we've had a little teaser. Okay, that was the 2001 shot, and then we had that first trailer come out, and I kind of have an idea what this is about. I don't know. I'm guessing. So I want to preface it by saying this: any anything I say about this film is purely speculation. I have no inside knowledge about this. Okay. That being said, I think that I'm worried about this film. I'm just gonna flat out be honest about it. I'm looking at this from a business point of view. Okay, I'm not looking at this from a film fans point of view, which I can, but I'm looking at this from a business point of view. Let me break it down for you guys. Number one, we don't know what this movie's about. Now, anything I say of what I think it's about is pure speculation. So I think what will happen, okay? Let me reiterate that. I think what will happen is Ken and Barbie are going to get transported to the real world in somehow, some way, some fashion. Okay? They're living in their Barbie towns, in the dream house and whatever else. And what will end up happening is they will get transported to the real world through some calamity. Okay. That being said, they are going to they will fall in love. Okay. I mean, they will fall in love and they will have to together figure out how to get back to the places they were. Um, Will Ferrell is going to be playing what we believe is the villain. So he is the Mattel CEO, according to uh, IMDb.com. So he's playing the Mattel CEO. So I think what is going to happen is that they're going to fall in love. They're going to have to get back to the world that they want to be in, and that's it. So they're going to go through many struggles. They're going to meet many different people and everything else, and that's going to be the movie. Now, I don't know. Nobody knows. The question is, how much money is this going to make? And I know I focus on box office a lot, but here I'm really worried because as I just was, going on about the number one most anticipated film for me, and that's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. Now, this has a budget of, I believe it's $100 million. It's $100 million. Okay. Now, I think that's going to make it back lickety split, no doubt. But it has a lot of adversity going against it. Okay. I'm going to be absolutely honest. Okay. The first thing it has going against it is It's not about opening weekend. Okay, anybody who does this for a living could tell you it's not about opening weekend. It's about the second weekend. Okay, and that being said, that I think that Mission Impossible is going to have a huge second weekend. Okay, that I should say Mission Impossible is that third film that I was talking about at the top of the show, where I think is going to win 2 weeks. Okay, it's going to win the weekend of the 14th, and then I think it's going to win this weekend. Now, that being said, there's another movie which I'll get to in a couple minutes, also coming out that same weekend. This is going to appeal to all the female demographic from 18 to 49. I'm not just so I just got something, an email. Sometimes I get to go to these screenings. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go to this one, but they wanted parents with children between ages 9 and 13. Now that kind of gives me a little insight, okay, for a couple of different things. Number one, I think at the end of the day, okay, this is going to be a rated PG-13 film. Okay, they're not going to do PG. It's going to be PG-13. It's going to be a very, very, very soft PG-13. Okay, there's going to be a couple jokes in there, and whatever else. Number two, okay, you're not going to be able to get. You've isolated the whole. I won't say isolated, but it's going to be very difficult to get the whole male demographic to go to this film. Okay, because if the boyfriend wants to go see Indiana Jones or Mission Impossible, the girlfriend's going to want to go see Barbie. Okay, so immediately that's taking away and it's going to cannibalize some of the revenue for this film. Number three, the fact is you are going to have 7 movies, okay, out at that time that have a chance to take the dollars away from Barbie. Okay, and I'm talking about Guardians, even though it's, probably going to be out of theaters by that point. Okay. Fast 10. Okay. All the films we've covered. Across the Spider-Verse, Transformers, The Flash, and Indiana Jones. So you're going to have 6 other films. Oh, and Mission Impossible. So you're going to have 7 other films here, okay, that are going to be ahead of this. I don't know what it's going to be able to do. Now, it's obviously going to make its budget back. We all know that. How well is it going to do? Nobody knows. Now, I have always said, and I have always been a big proponent of having this film move to August. And there's nothing in August we're going to cover, but there are a couple films coming out. One of them is that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, okay, that I think is going to be going to Netflix very soon after, okay? But you have Blue Beetle coming out the 18th, okay? You could legitimately have it the same weekend, if not the weekend of the 11th, and have it make money, okay? Because if you put it the 11th, what ends up happening is you're going to win the box office for that weekend, and Blue Beetle, it's a DC property, and depending on how the Flash does, I've always said it might dictate how Blue Beetle does. Okay, even if you move it to the end of August, it's still going to make money. Now you have the Equalizer 3 coming out the 1st of September, so I think August 11th is that prime real estate that it's still in the summer, but it's late summer. Okay, this is a very risky roll of the dice. I got to be honest. And I'm not saying the movie's going to be bad. I'm hoping it's good. I really do. I just wonder, because here's the thing. If people don't show up for this film, they're going to say, oh, well, there was no, they wanted to go see Oppenheimer, or they wanted to go see some of the, and that's the other film I'm going to be covering in a minute, but all these other films and nothing for Barbie. And if they do show up, then, and if they do show up, fantastic. I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying that, you know. So I'll be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm worried about Barbie. I am, and like I said, it's not because I don't want to see this do well. I just think that there's a lot of adversity going against this film. So, anyways, guys, what do you think about this Barbie movie? Are you excited for it? Is it one of your top 5 most anticipated films of the year? What do you think about the cast? We've got Ryan Gosling in it. We've got Will Ferrell. We've got Margot Robbie. Who are you looking forward to in seeing this? Are you going to bring your nieces to go see this? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so this is the final film that we are going to be covering today on the Blockbuster preview show. Now, that all being said, okay, um, we are going to be there are a lot of other movies coming out, okay, some of them which I didn't cover here, and I want everybody to know that, you know, like Elemental and The Little Mermaid, there are other films coming out, okay, so these aren't the only 9 films, okay, um, and I'll talk about that a little later, but so this is actually coming out the same day, okay, and that is Oppenheimer. And this is Christopher Nolan's, I won't say biopic, but this is going to be a very, very interesting movie. It's going to be a very long film. Okay. So this clocks in at 3 hours. Okay. Or right around 3 hours. This is $100 million budget. So anybody who's not familiar with it, with this name, okay, it's about stories of an American scientist, J. Robert Oppenheimer, and his role in the development of the atomic bomb. And we all know what the role of the atomic bomb has played, especially in World War II. That being said, this cast is stacked. I mean, stacked. Now, that being said, you have seen this before. I mean, Amsterdam's the perfect example where it was a stacked cast and the movie just went south. Okay, and completely bombed. But I think this is going to be different. It is Christopher Nolan. He is one of the best filmmakers over the last, I would say, 10, 15 years. I mean, all you got to do is go back to movies like Inception, Memento, you know, The Dark Knight, you know, everything else. That being said, this is a biopic, but it's not your average biopic. Okay. I'm interested in this quite a bit. I mean, Interstellar is another one he directed. Everybody, so the last film that Nolan put out was Tenet, and while Tenet, there were a lot of problems with Tenet, but it still ended up making almost $400 million. That being said, I think this is going to do very, very well. This movie is absolutely directed toward the award season crowd. No doubt in my mind. So I want you to just take a look at the cast here, and it will tell you why. Here is the cast of this film. And I want to take this off because I want everybody to get their due just recognition here. Okay? So we'll have to do it from this. Okay? So let's go back to this angle here. So take a look at the names here. Okay? Cillian Murphy. Of course, he worked with Christopher Nolan on Batman Begins. He played the Scarecrow. But he's a very good actor. He's a very, very good actor. And I'm very curious to see what he can do in a lead role. Okay? RDJ. I mean, it's RDJ. Now, the thing about Marvel actors and actresses is this. They get their notoriety being in Marvel films. Okay. And what ends up happening is that when they go to do outside projects from Marvel, they have the notoriety, but the film, now he doesn't need the money because of the deals he set up and everything else. Okay. Some actors or actresses will just take a job. Okay. This man doesn't need the money, but it's always fascinating to see what kind of roles they take after the MCU. For example, RDJ, one of the first films he took after um, the Avengers franchise was Doolittle. We all know where that ended up. Okay. Chadwick Boseman. Okay. When he did, one of the films he did was 21 Bridges. It was a predictable movie, but it was good. I mean, the Russos did that. They were EPs on it. It was okay. Okay. Um, I mean, it runs the gamut. So it's one of those things where, I'm really interested to see what happened. I mean, Chris Evans, he was just in um, he was just in a film with Anna de Armas. So it's interesting to see what they do after Marvel. So our DJ is in this. Now you can't see his face up there, but Matt Damon. And Matt Damon has been on an absolute tear as of late. Okay. Of course, his last project he just did with his good buddy Ben Affleck, Air, was unbelievable. It has made almost $70 million worldwide. It is going. I just did a story about this. Guys, go check out the Air spoiler cast I did, and I'll leave that right up there in the corner there for you guys. I loved it. It was phenomenal. It was his first movie that he had ever acted. Well, his production company with Ben Affleck, Artist Equity, um, unbelievable. All the way around, that movie was just so good, and I loved it so much. So yeah, go check that out. So Matt Damon is just um, he's a phenomenal actor. I mean, I could list the movies he's been. You know, Ocean's 11. I mean, for me personally, it's Rounders, but you've got, you know, The Martian. I mean, he was in Interstellar for a little bit. Just incredible films. Okay. Kenneth Branagh. Kenneth Branagh is a very solid actor and director. Of course, he just had Belfast a couple of years ago. Um, it got a lot of critical acclaim. Um, you know, the one movie I didn't care that he directed was Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit, but because he starred as the villain and he was directing it, I think the script was weak. There was a lot of problems with it. So I will give him a pass on that, but he's a solid actor all the way around. Emily Blunt. What can you say about her? Fantastic actress. Okay. Edge of Tomorrow. Just all of these other films that she's been in that has just been top notch. Um, the Devil Wears Prada. Of course, she was in the Adjustment Bureau with Matt Damon. So I mean, you have that. I mean, it's just another solid actress. Florence Pugh, an up and coming actress, and she's going to be in the new sequel. And I'm going to get to it in a couple minutes right after we're going to wrap it up. And she's phenomenal. Of course, she was in Black Widow. Um, unbelievable actress. Unbelievable actress. She's got a fantastic career ahead of her. Um, so it's one of those things where I can't wait for her to see her in that. Okay, Raleigh Bollock. Um, so I think here's the thing about Raleigh Bollock. Okay, won the Academy Award for Bohemian Rhapsody. Okay, he was in that. He was in that series for USA called Mr. Robot, which I still have to sit down and watch. Gets um, gets the role of Bohemian Rhapsody, wins the Academy Award for Best Actor. he then gets No Time to Die. And I didn't care for it. I didn't care for the film. I didn't care for him being the villain. There was a lot of holes. I didn't believe the whole third act of the film. That being said, I'm sure he's a great actor. But it seems to me he just got picked right. It seems to me he got the Bond film, okay, in that role because he won the Academy Award. Yeah, on the surface, I'm sure that's not true. That Academy Award has made a name for him, and now he's being, he's in a Christopher Nolan film. Whatever role he plays, it will be interesting to see. Josh Hartnett. Here's an actor who has been off the radar for many, many years, and he's done, his thing. And I think it will be very interesting to see what kind of roles he gets. The Faculty, 30 Days a Night. So it's going to be interesting to see what he gets, and what kind of a role he has. I think it's going to be more of a supporting role. Dane DeHaan. Now, this may be an unfamiliar name to some, but if you go back to the Amazing Spider-Man movies, okay, the first one, he was Harry Osborn. So, but he's done some other decent things, and I think that that's going to be, once again, I think he's going to have that supporting role. He was in Chronicle in 2012. And so I think that's going to be this is going to be an interesting role for him. Benny Saffoe. Once again, I know I got to be honest. I don't know quite too much about him. So, yeah, he was in Uncut Gems. So I think that would be his biggest role to date. Did I just see that? Wow, Matthew Modine's making an appearance in Oppenheimer. Okay, I didn't know that. That's crazy. And Jack Quaid. And I think as we get deeper and deeper into this in the last couple here, I think that it's one of these things that Gary pictured, who's not even pictured here, is Gary Oldman. So, of course, he's won the Academy Award for The Darkest Night back in 2008. But, yeah, this cast is stacked. Absolutely stacked. So I don't know. I hope that this does well. And everybody has a bad day at the office. I'm willing to let Tenet slide. I didn't see it, but everybody is supposed to have a bad day at the office. When it comes right down to it, Tenet will be one of those films that it's at the lower tier of whatever it is when they're doing rankings for Christopher Nolan. Anyways, guys, what do you think about Oppenheimer? Are you excited for Oppenheimer? Do you know who the man is prior to the film? What do you think about the cast of Oppenheimer? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'm going to get back to everybody. Okay, so that's it. So those are the 9, in order, those are the 9 films that I'm going to be covering over the next couple of months for you guys. I'm going to be seeing, and we're doing the spoiler cast and all that good stuff. As I said, a couple of things. Number one, there are films in this that are coming out that I did not cover, okay? And I want to make that explicitly clear because I don't want people to say, well, you didn't cover this movie or you didn't cover that. They're coming out, okay? These are, because everything is so stacked. You have 9 movies, okay? 2 of them coming out 1 week, but you have 9 movies coming out in a 12 or 13 week span. That's how packed it is. August is really not that big of a month. You have some films coming out, but the biggest one would be Blue Beetle. So, and then of course September 1st, as I made mention, Equalizer 3 comes out, which is definitely one of my top 5 most anticipated movies of the year. When we get to the middle of August, I will be doing a fall not Oscar, but a fall preview show, and we're going to be covering films like Killers of the Flower Moon. We are going to be covering things like The Equalizer 3. We are going to be covering all these films, and another movie that the trailer just came out today. Speaking of Florence Pugh, and I wanted to kind of leave it for something else, is Dune 2. Now, I remember going to see Dune 2 back 2021, 2020, whenever it was released, and I saw it in IMAX. And it was 2021. And so, that being said, I remember seeing it in IMAX. I didn't really know the story of it. And so I went, okay. And I thought it was very good. But the one thing that really rubbed me the wrong way was if you watch the trailers, they put Zendaya in there quite a bit more than what she was in the film. And that rubbed me the wrong way. And I was just, I thought the film was, no, I have to go back and watch it again prior to the second one. But yeah. So the trailer for the second one dropped today. Oh my goodness. It is one of the most visual, mind you, when we talk about directors having good streaks, I mean, we think of Scorsese and Spielberg, but you take a look at Denis Villeneuve. Okay, he's done films like Sicario, okay, Blade Runner 2049, Dune, okay. I mean, I'll even, Incendiaries, okay. I mean, all you got to do, Arrival, okay. Prisoners. So, I mean, he has had one hell of a winning streak going on. This looks, it's going to win visual. I'll be shocked if it doesn't win some sort of visual effects by the end of when Oscar season rolls around. This is absolutely an Oscar season film. So just take a. I want to just read this cast off because this is just amazing. When we're talking about a big cast with Christopher Nolan. Take a listen to this cast real quick. This is a none to the order. Okay, Florence Pugh, Rebecca Ferguson, who, by the way, is going to be in Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Timothée Chalamet is coming back. Zendaya is coming back. Austin Butler, okay, who looks unbelievable. Actually, the actress, I don't want to butcher her name, but she played the assassin in not Rogue Nation, but Ghost Protocol. Javier Bardem, Stellan Skarsgård, Josh Brolin, Dave Bautista, Christopher Walken, okay, Tim Blake Nelson. That's about the last. But you're talking about 10 big names. Visually, I can't wait for this. I cannot wait. And it looks incredible. I'll put the link in the description so you guys can watch the trailer. And yeah, I mean, there is so much, not only coming out this summer, but, like I said, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Equalizer, Dune Part 2. We've got a ton of stuff coming up. Wonka. Speaking of Timothée Chalamet, he'll be starring as a young Willy Wonka in December. Bunch of stuff. Guys, that all being said, please, I implore you, hit that like and subscribe button because that's the only way this gets out to the masses. I love doing this for you guys. I cannot wait to go see these movies and give my thoughts to you guys about this. We got a ton of stuff coming up on the channel, okay? We have the Mission Impossible Rewatch series, in which I'll be continuing. I'll be recording the next one, in the next week or so, okay? We have, if you would love this, I would love it for you to support me, guys, okay? There's a couple ways for you to do that. Number one, hit that join button on the channel there. Number two, go to patreon.com/Real Talks. There are two levels. There's a $5 one and $10 one. The $5 one is Mob Mondays. You guys are going to be getting one mob movie per month. Okay, I started out with The Departed, the 2008 Martin Scorsese Best Picture. Okay, I sat down with Brad Rochefort. We talked all about The Departed. Okay, that's $5. $10 gets you both Mob Mondays and Rewatch Wednesdays. And that's a film that I have seen, but I haven't seen in a long time, so I'm going to watch it. I just did, you guys have picked out the next film for Mob Mondays, and that's going to be The Untouchables, the 1987 film by Brian De Palma, Robert De Niro, Kevin Costner, Andy Garcia, Sean Connery. Okay. Rewatch Wednesdays. It's going to be Training Day, the 2001 fantastic Antoine Fuqua movie, Denzel winning the Oscar, of course, Ethan Hawke, and several other fantastic cast members in that. So that's $10 a month. I am right now going to try and be getting a store up for you guys. So if you want to get, real time, you want to get mugs and keychains and T-shirts, you can support me by doing that. Yeah, and guys, so as we wrap up here, summer box office hit studio rankings. Number 1 is Disney. Number 2 is Warner Brothers. Number 3 is Universal. Number 4 is Sony Pictures, and number 5 is Paramount. Yeah. So I mean, it will be interesting. Every single one of the studios is going to make a lot of money, Kevin. A lot of money. So, and the fact is, I would even throw Pixar in there with Elemental. I really would. I think, Warner Brothers, of course, has Flash. Paramount, of course, has Mission Impossible. So, I mean, they're all going to make a ton of money. But yeah, so you can support me with the Patreon. You can hit the join button there. I am trying to get a store up. Guys, all of this stuff is free. All of this, these spoiler casts, the show, everything else. So, you can't get this much content anywhere else for free. So come support me, and that would be fantastic. Okay, guys, so that's it for today. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to try and do the show early if I feel well. If not, I'll just go see Guardians. And then you'll definitely be getting a show on Friday. So let's do this. We're going to call it no show tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to go see Guardians. Then we'll do a show on Friday. We'll be back on Friday. And then on Saturday, guys, come back here. I'll figure out a time. We'll do it, probably 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 5 o'clock Eastern. We're going to be doing a spoiler cast for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And I hope to see you with it. I hope to see you here with it. So do the 3 things you need to do. Be safe. Be careful. And have a great rest of the day. I'm David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.